Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Mid-South Wrestling Review Series for May the 4th, 1985. And I've got May complete, may get to June today, depending on my schedule, but certainly after watching SmackDown last night, for those that do, my apologies for those who suffered through that dreadful program. I at least can return to the world of Mid-South where things make sense at least a good bit of the time. Anyway, Jake Roberts and Brad Armstrong open us up, part of the Mid-South Television Title Tournament. And Roberts does a lot of backing off. Armstrong gets cut off pretty quickly. We are in round 6. I don't understand how the tournaments work. I don't actually like how tournaments work in Mid-South. It's one of the things I don't like. High cross body by Armstrong, who manages to hit a near fall there. Roberts choking down a bit. Hard shots by Roberts. Back elbow by Jake. Jake manages to get caught in an armbar, though, for the next several minutes. Armstrong manages to be pretty assertive, aggressive about that whole process. And Armstrong stays on the arm, hammerlocks, and the like. Roberts is in a rough spot, to say the very least. Armstrong manages to drop knees upon the I guess you'd say back and wrists of Jake Roberts, and ultimately there we go, roll through there. Hard shots by Roberts, and again knee lift by Jake Roberts, and ultimately attempted cut off. Roberts continues his attack pretty aggressively, though several more knee lifts and strikes by Brad Armstrong. Armstrong goes for the sleeper hold. Roberts is able to somehow barely break free, and then Roberts with an inverted atomic drop for his trouble. Such amazing stuff. Roberts using the ropes, Roberts using whatever he can to get an advantage. Cut off in a DDT, and Jake Roberts is victorious here. Tom Pritchard versus Brickhouse Brown. Brickhouse Brown has been a major, I guess, aspect to the outlaying of the area Mid-South in the last little while. Brown kind of coming out with the boombox, a bit of a babyface now. Probably the first territory that Brown really caught on in is Mid-South. He does go back to Memphis, among other places, and do quite well. Deep arm drags in a drop kick under the chin by Brown. Brown manages another drop kick and sends Tom Pritchard to the outside. Interesting to me that Tom Pritchard really never hits his complete stride, and for another almost 5, 6, 7 years, his Smoky Mountain stuff and all of that. But amazing to be a trainer that really, he trained Shane, he trained Vince, he trained Kurt Angle, so many others that were major guys. So Tom Pritchard certainly needs to be respected and regarded and revered. Back elbow by Pritchard. Brown manages to come up again with several shots, Irish whips, and Brown continuing to be in control of the match. Back elbow, monkey flips, and the like, and Brown really not liking the position he finds himself in. Brown hits a airplane spin, rare move to see. Goes to the second rope on the inside and hits a headbutt right into the head of Tom Pritchard. Brown with a victory there. Edgar Boo Thomas defeats Steve Casey. Casey, an English talent, so I was wrong in my estimation. He was related to Scott Casey, because Scott Casey, not English. Dr. Death Steve Williams alongside Thomas. Thomas is a more collegiate style combatant. Thomas is a guy that obviously lots of people would be into from a, I guess you'd say, a consistent manner, and ultimately Casey manages to try and get as much of an advantage as he can early. Kick under the chin. Meanwhile, Steve Williams is, I wouldn't say nervous on the outside, but he's certainly uncomfortable when his man is not in control of the match. Thez press into a crossbody, and Casey gets a victory there. We move forward into Dr. Death challenging Steve Casey, basically saying he's embarrassed by what happened with Thomas. The challenge is accepted by Casey in the next interview segment. So we've got a future match, we got a future match between the two of them. Dirty Dutch Mantell up next against Private Terry Daniels. Daniels has been here for a while. Mantell, a guy who, books Puerto Rico a lot, spends a lot of time in Tennessee area, does quite well for himself. Relatively new here, been here maybe a month or two, something like that. Not as big a deal, but anyway, Mantell trying to crawl around, trying to get attention wherever he can. Off the ropes, Daniels does quite well, ready to be locked and loaded against his adversary, but a short knee by Mantell. Mantell sends himself into the edge of things there, and ultimately shots by Mantell pretty dominant, cheating wherever he can, and gets a backbreaker, a release backbreaker, side suplex type maneuver, going for a backbreaker and almost falls forward. The best way to explain it, and then Mantell goes for the running knee, gets a victory almost off of that, but not quite. And then we see him kind of lean his guy back. Daniels trying to fight back to a vertical base. Doesn't get there, gets pulled up instead. And Mantell kind of locking in the chin locks. Eventually, though, does get a victory for himself in relatively quick order with a vertical suplex, front falling in nature. Then again, as mentioned, we see Steve Casey accepting the challenge of Dr. Death. Eddie Gilbert changes his match into a handicap match for the Nightmare. The Nightmare, it was supposed to be a tag match. Gilbert not wanting to get in there. Gilbert kind of being a bit dodgy, so to speak, I guess you'd say, and ultimately, not accepting the responsibility of the tag match. But that's not a problem for the Nightmare. Nightmare comes in and just starts wailing on his adversaries super aggressively and all of that. Shots by the Nightmare and Irish whips, and then some hip tosses across the ring. Nightmare manages to dominate both guys. 2-on-1 doesn't seem to matter. Nightmare does get a series of near falls, hits a pile driver on one of the enhancement talents and the other, actually both of them, takes them both out with several pile drivers, and the referee stopping things or trying to. Referee gets pile drive for his trouble. Nightmare unable to be controlled. Eddie Gilbert having to come in and calm his man down, try to get him to behave like a rational human being, but the Nightmare out of control to say the very least. Then we go to Dr. Death Steve Williams versus Steve Casey. This is I guess you'd say, a result of the previous issue earlier in the program. Dr. Death, several brawling shots, clubbing forearms, shots under the chin, hits a headbutt, and many other aggressive maneuvers. Casey hops over him, kind of making fun of him, catching Williams not knowing where he is. He hits a drop kick and then does the outside in spot using the ropes, and Casey really in control of the match, hits a European uppercut, monkey flip out of the corner. Casey actually having a very good showing of himself, but gets cut down with a cutoff by Williams. Williams manages to hit a body slam pretty aggressively off the ropes, and the side elbow drop. Williams not willing to take any backward steps. Irish whip by Steve Williams, and the belly-to-belly suplex, almost a float over like Magnum TA used to do. Williams lands with Casey's foot on the bottom rope, back elbow by Williams, and again takes the match down a little bit slower. And again, Williams cannot get the victory. Cross body by Casey not able to get a victory either off that. Choke out over the ropes. Williams and Casey, actually a match worth checking out just for pacing and nature of getting a newer guy over. Big body slam and a leg drop by Williams. Williams again allows his man to come out the back door. Casey kind of catches Williams under the chin. We see the back body drop. Williams not happy with the way things are going there. Goes for the pin, cannot get him, tries to choke him out, doesn't get him there either. Williams eventually does get a bit more momentum, goes to the second rope. On the inside does Williams. Williams misses a big splash from that second rope. That is not a good sign. Casey brings him out of the corner the hard way. Williams blocks a sunset or a monkey flip, a second monkey flip. Williams now though hitting the Oklahoma Stampede, and finally 1, 2, 3 gets a victory. But Steve Casey made as a real threat in Mid-South through all of that. We've got about, 8 minutes or so left in the program as we go to Dundee and Taylor versus the Dirty White Boys. Dirty White Boys, again, are heels that, I guess I'd say aren't, that big a deal. They're plugging future Mid-South matches at the fairgrounds in Mississippi. Kind of, giving us, I guess, teasers for future matches. And Watts wants things to come back around. Crossbody by Dundee. Dundee back in the ring, kind of takes his man over and stays on the head. Taylor and Dundee, an interesting team. I don't really know how they come together. Anyway, Dirty White Boys dominant with Terry Taylor. Taylor takes a shot to the midsection. Irish whips out of the corner. Atomic drops by Dundee, and then does a bit of strutting and all of that around town. Meanwhile, Dundee not intimidated by the Dirty White Boys at all, and continues to show that. Len Denton comes back into the ring. Several arm ringers, arm bars, and the like cut off by Denton. Tony Anthony takes back over on Dundee. They cut the ring off and use double back elbows, among other things. Meanwhile, both guys kind of going at it. Hard shots by Dundee and his adversary. Dundee in the wrong corner for a good bit of time. Dirty White Boys seem to be in solid control of the contest. Anyway, we see more hard shots along the way. Tag off, hot tag to Terry Taylor. Taylor comes in, cleaning house relatively aggressively, and hooks in a figure 4. One of the members of the Dirty White Boys does agree to give up, and that is where we close this particular program. We'll be back with more right after this.